Jay Choi stared at his phone screen for the 15th time in 10 minutes, his calloused fingers hovering over the dating app notification. Legal Eagle, cat, wants to chat. The irony wasn't lost on him. A lawyer wanting to talk to someone whose business card should probably read, professional lawbreaker. Boss, the shipment from Busan arrived, his Lieutenant Wu Jin announced, but Jay barely looked up from the photo of the beautiful black woman with the warmest smile he'd ever seen. Handle it, he muttered, then immediately typed back, Hey, love your profile. Coffee tomorrow? 3 dots appeared instantly. Absolutely. I know the perfect place in Santa Barbara. Fair warning, though. I'm way more interesting in person than my boring lawyer life suggests. Jay's heart did something weird. A flutter that had nothing to do with adrenaline from dodging bullets or closing illegal deals. When was the last time someone called him interesting for reasons that didn't involve fear? Meanwhile, across town, Catherine Davis frantically Googled international law basics while her students colored quietly. She'd been pretending to be a hotshot attorney for exactly 3 dating app conversations, and now she had a date with someone who looked like he stepped out of a K-drama. Miss Catherine, why are you sweating? Little Lily asked innocently. Because I'm about to have coffee with a gorgeous man while pretending to be someone I'm not, Catherine thought, but said, just excited about, legal stuff, sweetie. Both were about to discover that some lies are worth telling. The Coastal Bean Cafe buzzed with typical Santa Barbara energy, surfers discussing waves over organic acai bowls, tech workers typing furiously on MacBooks, and tourists snapping photos of the ocean view. Catherine arrived 15 minutes early, clutching a legal thriller she'd grabbed from the library's returned bin, hoping it would make her look authentically lawyer-ish. She'd changed outfits 3 times, finally settling on a blazer that screamed professional, and jeans that whispered approachable. Her natural curls were pulled back in what she hoped looked like a sophisticated bun, though several rebellious strands had already escaped. Jay walked in exactly on time, a habit drilled into him by years of precision-required illegal operations, and immediately spotted her. The photos hadn't captured how her eyes lit up when she smiled, or how she unconsciously tucked that escaped curl behind her ear. He'd traded his usual all-black ensemble for khakis and a button-down, looking like he was cosplaying as a normal person. Catherine? His accent was subtle but unmistakable, and when she looked up, her practiced, confident lawyer smile melted into something genuine. Jay, you're even more handsome than your photos, which I didn't think was possible. The words tumbled out before she could stop them, and she immediately blushed. I mean, in a completely professional, objective assessment kind of way. He laughed, actually laughed, and the sound was so unexpected that an elderly woman at the next table looked over approvingly. Thank you, I think. Should I be concerned that you're professionally assessing my appearance? Is that a lawyer thing? Oh, absolutely. We assess everything. It's very legal. Catherine mentally kicked herself. Very legal. Really? Jay slid into the seat across from her, and Roberto Silva, the cafe owner, appeared with his usual enthusiasm. Welcome to Coastal Bean. First time here together. I can always tell you have that nervous energy. Very cute. What can I get you, lovebirds? We're not, Catherine started. Just coffee, Jay began. They spoke simultaneously, then stopped, then laughed awkwardly. Roberto grinned knowingly and walked away, leaving them in comfortable chaos. So, Jay said, attempting to channel every romantic comedy he'd secretly watched, tell me about your most interesting case. I bet you have some wild lawyer stories. Catherine's mind went completely blank. The most exciting thing that had happened at Jefferson Elementary this week was when Tommy Martinez brought his pet hamster for show and tell, and it escaped into the ventilation system. Oh, you know, the usual, very international. Lots of legal things. She took a sip of water to buy time. What about you? Your profile said you work in import-export. Technically true. Jay imported illegal goods and exported problems for rival organizations. Yeah, family business, very traditional Korean company. We deal with, various products. That's so interesting. I love learning about different cultures. I've always wanted to visit Korea. Really? Jay's face lit up genuinely. My halmoni, my grandmother, she makes the most amazing kimchi. She's always saying I need to find a nice girl to teach her recipes to. Catherine felt something warm flutter in her chest. There was something so genuine about the way he talked about his grandmother, so different from the smooth dating app persona. I'd love to learn. I mean, I cook sometimes. Legal work keeps me busy, but I find cooking relaxing. This wasn't entirely a lie. She did love cooking, just usually for 25-7-year-olds rather than romantic dinners. What kind of law do you practice? Jay asked, and Catherine's palms started sweating. International, very cut international, lots of treaties and border, legal, situations. She was spiraling and she knew it. Jay nodded seriously, though internally he was panicking because he had no idea what normal import-export businesses actually did day to day. That sounds complicated. I mostly just coordinate shipments. Very boring compared to your work. Oh no, I'm sure it's fascinating. The logistics alone must be incredible. Right, the logistics, so many. Logistics. They stared at each other for a moment, both drowning in their respective lies, when Jessica the waitress appeared with their coffee order they'd never actually placed. 2 lattes, extra foam, just how you like them, she announced cheerfully. We didn't order, Catherine started. Roberto's special service for cute couples. Jessica winked. He's got a sixth sense about these things. As Jessica walked away, Jay and Catherine looked at their unexpected lattes, then at each other, and burst into laughter. This is either the worst first date ever or the most memorable, Catherine said, surprising herself with her honesty. Definitely memorable, Jay agreed. And when he smiled, really smiled, not the practiced charm he used in business, Catherine felt her heart do a little flip. Can I confess something? She said impulsively. Jay's blood pressure spiked. Was she about to reveal she was undercover law enforcement? Sure. I'm terrible at first dates, like historically awful. I once accidentally ordered escargot thinking it was a type of pasta. Jay's relief was so intense he nearly laughed. That's actually adorable. I once tried to impress a date by ordering wine in French and accidentally asked the waiter to bring me a small horse. You did not. I absolutely did. The waiter was very confused. They were both laughing now, the artificial tension melting away into something real and warm. Catherine found herself leaning forward, genuinely interested in this man who seemed to be as awkward as she was beneath his polished exterior. So, what do you do when you're not logistically coordinating? She asked. I read, actually. Mostly Korean literature, but I've been trying to expand, and I cook. My Halmoni taught me. What about you, besides international legal situations? I love reading too and hiking when I can find the time. There's something peaceful about being in nature, away from all the legal chaos. For the next hour, they talked about books, food, travel dreams, and childhood memories. Catherine found herself forgetting entirely about her lawyer persona, and Jay discovered that making someone laugh felt better than closing any business deal. When they finally left the cafe, both were reluctant for the afternoon to end. I had a really great time, Catherine said, tucking that rebellious curl behind her ear again. Me too. Would you maybe want to do this again? I know a great place for dinner tomorrow night. I'd love that. As they parted ways, both were grinning like teenagers. Neither noticed Detective Mike Torres sitting in his car across the street, photographing Jay through a telephoto lens, or that Catherine's phone was buzzing with texts from her best friend Brianna demanding updates. They were too busy floating on the high of unexpected connection, blissfully unaware that their carefully constructed lies were about to get much more complicated. Catherine stared at her reflection in the staff bathroom mirror at Jefferson Elementary, practicing her I totally know about international law face. Tomorrow's dinner date with Jay had her simultaneously excited and terrified. Miss Catherine, why are you making weird faces? Lily Chen appeared in the doorway, her backpack bigger than she was. I'm not making weird faces, sweetie. I'm just thinking about grown-up stuff. Like taxes? My mum makes that same face when she does taxes. Something like that. Catherine knelt down to Lily's level. What are you still doing here? School ended an hour ago. Mom's running late again. She's at some important meeting about international business stuff. She says it's very complicated, and involves lots of countries. Catherine's ears perked up. International business? That sounds interesting. Super boring if you ask me, but she talks about treaties and regulations and stuff. Want me to ask her about it? She loves explaining work to people. Oh no, that's okay, Catherine started, but Lily was already pulling out a sparkly pink phone. Mom, I'm with Miss Catherine and she wants to know about your international law stuff. Catherine's eyes widened in horror as Lily thrust the phone at her. A professional-sounding woman's voice came through the speaker. Hello, this is Dr. Chen. Lily says you're interested in international trade law. I'm actually... Catherine fumbled, then decided to lean into it. Yes, I work in that field too. Always nice to meet a colleague. Wonderful, what's your specialty? I focus primarily on Pacific Rim trade agreements and customs regulations. Catherine's mind went completely blank. I specialize in Korean import situations. Oh, fascinating. The recent changes to the Korea-US Free Trade Agreement have created some interesting challenges, haven't they? Especially with the new documentation requirements for textile imports. Yes, so many documents, very challenging. There was a pause. Which firm are you with? I'm between firms right now. Consulting, very consultative. Another pause. Well, if you ever want to discuss the new anti-dumping regulations over coffee, I'd love to chat. It's rare to find someone else in the field locally. That would be great, Catherine squeaked, mentally adding, learn what anti-dumping means to her growing list of things to Google. After hanging up, Lily looked at her curiously. You sounded weird talking to my mum. Do you not like your job? I love my job, sweetie. Sometimes grown-ups just get nervous talking about work stuff. That's silly. You're the best teacher ever. Why would you be nervous? Catherine's heart squeezed. If only dating were as simple as teaching second grade. Meanwhile, across town, Jay was having his own crisis. He stood in his penthouse kitchen, staring at his phone where Woo Jin had just texted, Boss, we need to discuss the new shipment protocols. The feds are sniffing around. Not now, he muttered, then immediately felt guilty. Woo Jin had been with him since the beginning, had saved his life more than once, but all Jay could think about was Catherine's laugh, the way she'd gotten excited talking about hiking trails. His phone rang. J.R., came his grandmother's voice, warm and slightly scolding. You missed dinner again. Sorry, Halmoni, I was busy. Busy with work or busy with the girl you won't tell me about? Jay nearly dropped the phone. What girl? The one who makes you smile at your phone like a fool. You think I don't notice? Bring her to dinner Sunday. Halmoni, it's not that simple. Love is simple, J.R. Everything else is just noise. What does she do? She's a lawyer. There was a long pause. A lawyer. International law. Very respectable. Smart girl. Good. You need someone smarter than you to keep you out of trouble. If only she knew, Jay thought grimly. After hanging up, he found himself Googling what to talk about with lawyers and immediately feeling ridiculous. When had he become the kind of man who Googled dating advice? His phone buzzed with another text from Woo Jin. Boss, seriously, we need to talk. Jay sighed and called him back. What's the situation? Detective Torres has been asking questions about our shipping schedules, and there's been some chatter about a federal task force. Jay's blood ran cold. How much do they know? Nothing concrete yet, but we need to be careful. Maybe lay low for a while. I can't lay low right now. Boss, with respect, when has a woman ever been worth risking everything? Jay thought about Catherine's genuine smile, the way she'd admitted to being terrible at first dates, how she'd made him laugh without even trying. Maybe this one is. The next evening, Catherine stood outside Palazzo Bello, Santa Barbara's most romantic Italian restaurant, wearing her one good dress and enough anxiety to power a small city. She'd spent the afternoon watching YouTube videos about international law and felt more confused than when she'd started. Jay arrived precisely on time, looking devastatingly handsome in a dark suit that probably cost more than Catherine made in a month. He'd agonized over the outfit choice. Too formal might seem suspicious, too casual might seem disrespectful. "You look beautiful," he said, and meant it completely. "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself." Roberto Silva had recommended the restaurant, claiming it was perfect for romance, and as they were seated at a candlelit table overlooking the harbor, Catherine had to admit he was right. "This place is incredible," she said, looking around at the elegant decor. "I wanted somewhere special," Jay replied, then immediately worried that sounded too intense for a second date. They ordered wine. Jay knew about wine from his various business dealings. Catherine pretended to know about wine from watching cooking shows and settled into conversation. "So tell me more about your work," Catherine said, then immediately regretted it. "I mean, if you want to. I know business talk can be boring." "It's not boring when you're interested," Jay said carefully. "We import a lot of specialty items from Korea. Traditional crafts, some textiles, food products. What about you? Any exciting cases lately?" Catherine's mind raced. "Oh, you know the usual. I'm working on this. An import case, actually. Very complicated. Lots of Korean, legal implications." Jay's fork paused halfway to his mouth. "Korean imports? What kind of issues?" "Well, there are all these regulations and documentation. Very documented." "That sounds challenging. Which port are you dealing with? Los Angeles, Long Beach?" Catherine felt sweat beading on her forehead. "Both. All the ports. Very port-heavy case." Jay nodded seriously, though something felt off. Most lawyers he'd encountered were much more specific about their cases, even when being deliberately vague. "I actually deal with those ports regularly," he said carefully. "Maybe I could help with some of the logistics questions." "Oh, that's so sweet, but I couldn't possibly. It's very confidential. Attorney-client privilege and all that." They were saved by the arrival of their entrees, but both were now hyper-aware that something wasn't quite adding up. "This pasta is amazing," Catherine said, grateful for the subject change. "It is. Do you cook Italian food?" "Sometimes. I love cooking for—" She caught herself before saying "my students," and quickly pivoted, "for people I care about. I'd love to cook for you sometime. Korean food, I mean. My halmoni taught me her recipes." "That sounds wonderful. I'd love to meet your grandmother." Jay's heart did that fluttering thing again. "She'd love you. She's always telling me I need to find someone who appreciates good food and good conversation." Smart woman. The smartest. She came to America with nothing and built a whole life here. She always says the secret to happiness is finding someone who makes you want to be better than you are. Catherine felt something shift in her chest. There was so much love and respect in his voice when he talked about his grandmother. Whatever Jay did for work, whoever he was, this part of him was completely real. "She sounds amazing. My parents always said something similar, that love should inspire you to grow." "Are you close with your family?" "Very. They live in Sacramento. My dad's a mechanic. My mom works at the library. They're probably the most honest people I know." Catherine felt a pang of guilt at the irony. "They sound wonderful. I'd like to meet them someday." The casual mention of future meetings made Catherine's heart skip. "I'd like that too." As the evening progressed, they talked about everything except work. Childhood memories, favorite movies, travel dreams, embarrassing moments. Catherine found herself completely charmed by Jay's dry sense of humor and the way he listened intently to everything she said. When they left the restaurant, Jay offered to walk her to her car. The Santa Barbara evening was perfect. Warm breeze, stars visible despite the city lights, the distant sound of waves. "I had an amazing time," Catherine said, as they reached her modest Honda Civic. "Me too. Would you maybe want to do something this weekend? There's a hiking trail I've been wanting to try." "I'd love that." Jay stepped closer, and for a moment, Catherine thought he might kiss her. Instead, he gently tucked that rebellious curl behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her cheek. "I really like you, Catherine," he said softly. "I really like you too." As she drove home, Catherine felt like she was floating. She'd never connected with someone so quickly, so naturally. The lies about her job felt like a small price to pay for whatever this was becoming. Jay watched her taillights disappear, then pulled out his phone to call Wu Jin. "How did it go, boss?" "Good, really good." "Good enough to be worth the risk?" Jay thought about Catherine's laugh, her genuine interest in his family, the way she'd made him forget about everything else for 3 hours. "Yeah, I think it might be." Neither of them noticed Detective Torres photographing them from across the street, or that Catherine's phone was buzzing with increasingly frantic texts from Brianna wanting details about her mysterious lawyer date. They were too busy falling for each other to notice their carefully constructed worlds were about to collide. Saturday morning dawned grey and drizzly, but Catherine's mood was sunshine bright as she laced up her hiking boots. She'd spent Friday evening Googling hiking outfit that says outdoorsy but also cute, and settled on leggings, a moisture-wicking top, and a light jacket that Brianna had insisted made her look athletically adorable. "You're glowing," Brianna observed from Catherine's couch, where she was grading papers and living vicariously through her best friend's love life. "It's disgusting how happy you look." "I'm not glowing, I'm just excited about hiking." "Uh-huh. And I'm excited about teaching fractions to third graders." "Girl, you're gone, completely smitten with this mysterious import-export man." Catherine blushed, which only proved Brianna's point. "He's just different, easy to talk to, and he has this way of listening that makes you feel like you're the only person in the world." "Mm-hmm. And what happens when he finds out you teach 7-year-olds instead of practicing international law?" "I'll figure that out later. Maybe he won't care." Brianna gave her a look that said exactly what she thought of that plan. Meanwhile, Jay was having a similar conversation with Wu Jin in his penthouse, though with significantly more pacing and stress-eating of his grandmother's homemade kimchi. "Boss, you're spiraling," Wu Jin observed calmly. "It's just a hike." "It's not just a hike. It's a hike with a federal prosecutor who could potentially put me in prison for the rest of my life." "She's not a federal prosecutor. You said she does international law." "Same difference. She probably knows exactly what questions to ask to figure out our business isn't legitimate," Wu Jin sighed. "Have you considered just telling her the truth?" Jay stopped pacing and stared at him. "Tell her I run a criminal organization? On our third date?" "Maybe not all of it, but some of it. The part about wanting to get out, go legitimate. Women like honesty. Women like not dating criminals more. You don't know that. Maybe she's into bad boys." Jay gave him a withering look. "She's a lawyer, Wu Jin. Her entire career is built on putting people like me behind bars." "Then maybe you should think about whether this is worth the risk." Jay thought about Catherine's smile, the way she'd gotten excited talking about her favorite books, how she'd made him laugh until his sides hurt. "It is." They met at the trailhead for Inspiration Point, one of Santa Barbara's most popular hiking spots. Catherine arrived first, checking her reflection in her car's side mirror, and immediately regretting not bringing more lip gloss. Jay pulled up in a black BMW that was definitely not what she'd expected from someone in import-export, but she pushed the thought aside. Maybe business was really good. "Ready for an adventure?" he asked, shouldering a professional-looking hiking backpack that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "Absolutely. Though I should warn you, I'm not exactly a mountain goat. More like a determined turtle. Determined turtles are my favorite hiking companions." The trail started easy, winding through oak trees and offering glimpses of the ocean below. They fell into comfortable conversation, talking about everything and nothing: favorite hiking spots, childhood camping disasters, the best snacks for outdoor adventures. "I can't believe you've never tried Korean trail mix," Jay said, pulling a bag from his backpack. "My Halmoni makes it with dried persimmons, sesame seeds, and these little rice crackers." "That sounds amazing. I usually just grab whatever's on sale at the grocery store." "Try it." He held out the bag, and when their fingers brushed as she took some, Catherine felt that familiar flutter. The trail mix was delicious, sweet and salty, and completely unlike anything she'd ever tasted. "This is incredible. Your grandmother is clearly a genius." "She'd love you," Jay said. Then immediately worried he was moving too fast. "I mean, she loves anyone who appreciates her cooking. I'd love to meet her and learn some of her recipes if she wouldn't mind sharing." Jay's heart did that fluttering thing again. She'd be honored to teach you. They hiked in comfortable silence for a while, enjoying the scenery and each other's company. Catherine found herself stealing glances at Jay, admiring how gracefully he moved on the trail, how he automatically offered his hand when the path got rocky. About halfway up, the grey clouds finally made good on their threat, and fat raindrops started falling. "Oh no," Catherine groaned, looking up at the darkening sky. "It's okay, there's a shelter up ahead," Jay said, grabbing her hand and leading her toward a small wooden pavilion just off the trail. They made it just as the sky opened up, rain coming down in sheets. The shelter was tiny, barely big enough for 2 people, forcing them to stand close together, watching the storm. "So much for our perfect hiking weather," Catherine said, wringing water from her hair. "I don't know. This is pretty perfect from where I'm standing." She looked up at him, and something in his expression made her breath catch. They were standing so close she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, could smell his cologne mixed with rain and fresh air. "Catherine," he said softly, and she knew he was going to kiss her. When his lips met hers, it was gentle at first, tentative, then deeper when she responded by wrapping her arms around his neck. She'd been kissed before, but never like this, like she was precious, like he'd been waiting his whole life for this moment. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. "Wow," Catherine whispered. "Yeah, wow." They stood there, foreheads touching, listening to the rain and each other's heartbeats. "I should probably tell you something," Catherine said impulsively. Jay's stomach dropped. "What?" "I'm not actually—" Her phone rang, cutting her off. Brianna's name flashed on the screen. "I should take this. She only calls during emergencies." Catherine stepped back and answered. "Bri, what's wrong?" "Kat, thank God, are you okay? There's been some kind of incident at the school. Carol called asking if I knew where you were." "What kind of incident?" "I don't know the details, but she said something about federal agents asking questions about staff members. She wants all teachers to check in." Catherine's blood ran cold. "Federal agents?" "Yeah. Kat, you sound weird. Are you okay?" I'm fine. I'll call Carol right now." She hung up and found Jay watching her with concern. "Everything okay?" There's some kind of situation at work. I need to make a call." Catherine stepped to the far side of the small shelter and called Carol Henderson, her mind racing. Why would federal agents be asking about school staff? "Catherine, thank goodness." Carol's voice was strained. "Where are you?" "I'm hiking." "What's going on?" "Some federal agents came by asking questions about our staff. They seem particularly interested in anyone who might have connections to international business or legal work. I told them all our teachers are exactly what they appear to be, but they left their cards and said they might want to speak with people individually." Catherine's mouth went dry. "Did they say why?" "Something about an ongoing investigation." "Catherine, you don't have any side work I should know about, do you? Any consulting or legal work?" "No, of course not. I'm just a teacher." "Good. That's what I told them. But they seemed very thorough, very serious." After hanging up, Catherine stood staring at her phone, her mind spinning, federal agents asking about international legal work. The same day she was on a date with someone who imported goods from Korea. "Catherine, you look pale." She turned to find Jay watching her with an expression she couldn't read. "I'm fine. Just work stuff." But even as she said it, pieces were clicking together in her mind. His expensive car, his designer clothes, the way he'd been vague about his business, the fact that he seemed to have unlimited money and flexible hours. "Jay," she said carefully, "what exactly do you import?" Something flickered in his eyes. "Why do you ask?" "Just curious. You've been kind of vague about the details." "And you've been kind of vague about your legal work," he countered. They stared at each other across the small shelter, the rain drumming overhead, both suddenly aware that they might not know each other as well as they'd thought. "Maybe we should head back," Catherine said finally. "Yeah, maybe we should." The hike down was awkward, both lost in their own thoughts. The easy conversation from earlier was replaced by stilted small talk and long silences. When they reached the parking lot, both were soaked despite the rain having stopped. "I had a good time," Jay said, though it sounded forced. Me too, Catherine replied, equally unconvincing. I'll call you? Sure. They stood there for a moment, both wanting to say something but not knowing what. Finally, Jay stepped forward and kissed her cheek gently. Drive safe. As Catherine drove home, her mind was a whirlwind of confusion and growing suspicion. The timing was too coincidental, federal agents asking about international legal work the same day she was dating someone in international business. Meanwhile, Jay sat in his car, calling Wu Jin. We have a problem, he said without preamble. What kind of problem? The kind where my girlfriend might be a federal agent. Boss, I think you're being paranoid. She got a call about federal agents asking questions at her work, about people with international legal connections. Then she started asking very specific questions about our business. There was a long pause. What do you want me to do? Run a background check, full workup. I need to know who Catherine Davis really is. And if she is federal. Jay closed his eyes, thinking about her laugh, her genuine smile, the way she'd kissed him back in the rain. Then I'm in more trouble than I thought. As both drove home through the Santa Barbara evening, neither noticed Detective Torres following at a discreet distance, photographing license plates and making notes about their increasingly suspicious behavior. The rain had stopped, but the storm was just beginning. Sunday afternoon found Catherine stress-cleaning her apartment, while Brianna watched from the couch, occasionally offering commentary that was more hindrance than help. You've reorganized that bookshelf 3 times, Brianna observed. Either you're having a breakdown or you're in love, given your track record, possibly both. I'm not having a breakdown, Catherine said, aggressively alphabetizing her romance novel collection. I'm just processing. Processing what? The fact that you're falling for a guy you've been lying to? Or the fact that federal agents are suddenly interested in your school? Both? Neither? I don't know. Catherine threw her hands up. What if he's connected to whatever they're investigating? What if I'm dating some kind of criminal? Or, Brianna said reasonably, what if you're overthinking this because you actually like him and that scares you? Before Catherine could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from Jay. Want to grab lunch? I know a great place downtown. Catherine stared at the message, her thumb hovering over the keyboard. Part of her wanted to say yes immediately. She'd been thinking about their kiss in the rain shelter all night, but another part of her, the sensible teacher part, was waving red flags. What does it say? Brianna peered over her shoulder. He wants to have lunch. And you're hesitating because what if he's dangerous? Brianna gave her a look. Catherine Davis. That man spent 20 minutes helping you untangle your headphones on your second date. If he's dangerous, he's the politest criminal in history. Catherine laughed despite herself. You're right. I'm being paranoid. She texted back, I'd love to. Pick me up at 1. His response was immediate. Can't wait. Meanwhile, across town, Jay was having his own crisis of confidence. Wu Jin's background check had come back clean. Too clean. Catherine Davis, elementary school teacher, clean driving record, no criminal history, active in community theater. Either she was exactly who she claimed to be, or she was the best deep-cover agent in federal history. Boss, you're overthinking this, Wu Jin said, watching Jay pace around his office. Sometimes a teacher is just a teacher. Then why was she asking so many questions about our business? And why did federal agents show up at her school the same day? Coincidence? I don't believe in coincidences. Maybe you should ask her directly. Jay stopped pacing. Ask her if she's a federal agent. Ask her about her work, real questions, see how she responds, and if she is undercover. Then at least you'll know. Jay picked up his keys. I'm going to pick her up for lunch. Boss, I need to know who she really is. Catherine was ready when Jay arrived, wearing a sundress that made his heart do that fluttering thing despite his suspicions. She looked nervous, which either meant she was as confused about their relationship as he was, or she was preparing to arrest him. You look beautiful, he said, and meant it. Thank you, you look pretty good yourself. The drive to the restaurant was filled with careful small talk, both of them dancing around the elephant in the room. Jay had chosen a small bistro downtown, public enough to feel safe, quiet enough for serious conversation. They were seated at a sidewalk table, perfect for people watching and avoiding intense eye contact. The afternoon was warm and sunny, a perfect contrast to yesterday's rain. "So," Jay said after they'd ordered, "tell me more about your work. I realized I don't know much about what you actually do day to day." Catherine's stomach clenched. "Oh, you know, the usual lawyer stuff, lots of legal research and, court, things." "What kind of court things?" "The legal kind." Catherine took a sip of water, buying time. "What about you? You mentioned family business, but what does that actually involve?" "Import coordination, logistics, making sure products get from point A to point B without complications." "What kind of complications?" "Regulatory issues, customs problems. You know how it is with international trade." They stared at each other, both clearly lying, both knowing the other was lying, neither sure how to address it. Their food arrived, providing a welcome distraction. They ate in relative silence, the easy conversation from their previous dates replaced by awkward tension. "Catherine," Jay said finally, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Are you happy with your work?" The question caught her off guard. "What do you mean? You seem tense when you talk about it, like it's not something you enjoy." Catherine felt a pang of guilt. The truth was, she loved her job, loved her students, loved seeing their faces light up when they finally understood a concept, loved being part of their growth and development. It's complicated," she said finally. "Most things worth doing are." There was something in his tone that made her look up. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't read, part concern, part curiosity, part something that looked like understanding. "What about you?" she asked impulsively. "Are you happy with your work?" Jay was quiet for a long moment. "I'm trying to be. It's family expectations, you know. Sometimes what you're supposed to do and what you want to do aren't the same thing." "I understand that." "Do you?" Their eyes met across the table, and for a moment, the pretense fell away. They were just two people, both carrying secrets, both trying to figure out how to be honest without losing everything. "Jay," Catherine started. "Check, please," a cheerful voice interrupted. Their server appeared with the bill, breaking the moment. As they left the restaurant, both were lost in thought. They walked slowly toward Jay's car, neither wanting the afternoon to end despite the tension. "Want to walk around a bit?" Jay suggested. "It's such a nice day." "I'd like that." They strolled through downtown Santa Barbara, window shopping and making careful conversation. The afternoon sun was warm, and despite everything, Catherine found herself relaxing. Whatever secrets Jay was keeping, he was still the man who'd made her laugh until her sides hurt, who'd kissed her like she was precious. They were walking hand in hand, debating the merits of various ice cream flavors, when disaster struck. Her car drove through a massive puddle left from yesterday's rain, sending a wave of dirty water directly at them. "Look out!" Jay tried to pull Catherine out of the way, but it was too late. They were both soaked, head to toe, in muddy water that smelled faintly of motor oil and regret. Catherine stood there dripping, her sundress clinging to her in the most unflattering way possible, and started to laugh. "This is not how I imagined this afternoon going," she said, wringing water from her hair. Jay, equally soaked and looking like a drowned businessman, started laughing too. "I'm so sorry. I should have seen that coming. Unless you control the weather and traffic, I don't see how this is your fault." They stood there, laughing and dripping, drawing stares from passers-by. Catherine felt something shift inside her chest. This was real. This moment, this laughter, this ridiculous situation. Whatever else was happening between them, this was genuine. "Come on," Jay said, taking her hand. "Let's get you somewhere warm and dry." They hurried back to his car, leaving wet footprints on the sidewalk. Jay opened the passenger door for her, ever the gentleman, then promptly slammed it on her foot. "Ow!" Catherine yelped, hopping on one foot. "Oh God, I'm so sorry." Jay immediately opened the door again, his face a mask of horror. "Are you okay? Should we go to the hospital?" I'm fine, Catherine said, though her foot was definitely throbbing. "It's just a bump." "I can't believe I just did that. What kind of person slams a car door on someone's foot?" The nervous kind, apparently, Catherine said, still hopping slightly. Seriously, I'm okay. But Jay was already kneeling down, gently examining her foot through her sandal. It's swelling a little. We should get ice on it. Jay, really, I'm taking you to get medical attention. For a stubbed toe. I slammed a car door on your foot. That's not a stubbed toe, that's assault with a deadly weapon. Catherine couldn't help but laugh at his dramatic expression. It's a car door, not a deadly weapon. It could have been. What if I'd broken something? What if you couldn't walk? What if... Catherine silenced him by grabbing his face and kissing him, right there on the sidewalk, both of them still dripping wet and ridiculous. When they broke apart, Jay looked dazed. What was that for? You were spiraling. And also, you're really cute when you're worried about me. I hurt you? Accidentally. And barely. I've had worse injuries from my students' enthusiasm during recess. Jay helped her into the car, still fussing over her foot. As he walked around to the driver's side, Catherine watched him through the windshield. This man who'd tried to protect her from the puddle, who was now panicking over a minor bump, who'd kissed her like she was the most important thing in the world, couldn't possibly be dangerous, could he? Where to? Jay asked, starting the car. Your place? Catherine said impulsively, then blushed. I mean, to get cleaned up. And maybe you could look at my foot properly. Jay's heart rate spiked for entirely different reasons. Are you sure? I'm sure. As they drove toward his penthouse, both were quiet, lost in their own thoughts. Catherine was thinking about trust, about taking chances, about the way Jay's hands had been so gentle checking her foot. Jay was thinking about the background check, about federal agents, about the fact that he was about to bring a potential undercover agent to his home. Neither of them noticed Detective Torres following at a discreet distance, or that Catherine's phone was buzzing with texts from Brianna asking how lunch went. They were too busy trying to figure out if they were falling in love or walking into a trap, possibly both. Jay's penthouse was not what Catherine had expected. She'd imagined something cold and modern, all glass and steel like a movie villain's lair. Instead, it was warm and lived in, with comfortable furniture, family photos, and the lingering smell of something delicious cooking. Wow, she said, looking around at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Santa Barbara harbor. This is beautiful. Thank you. My Halmoni insisted on decorating. She said a home should feel like a hug, not a museum. Catherine noticed the traditional Korean artwork mixed with modern pieces, the family photos covering one entire wall, the small shrine in the corner with offerings of fruit and incense. She has excellent taste. She has opinions about everything, Jay said fondly. Let me get you a towel and something dry to wear. He disappeared into what Catherine assumed was his bedroom, leaving her to explore the living room. The family photos drew her attention. Jay as a serious-looking child, graduation pictures, what looked like a traditional Korean ceremony. In several photos, he was with an elderly woman who had the same kind eyes and mischievous smile. That's my Halmoni, Jay said, returning with a towel and what looked like an expensive sweatshirt. Soon, Ja Kim. She's 93 and still trying to run my life. She looks wonderful and terrifying. She is both. Jay handed her the towel and sweatshirt. Bathroom's down the hall, take your time. Catherine changed quickly, grateful to be out of her wet dress. Jay's sweatshirt was enormous on her, but it was soft and warm and smelled like his cologne. When she emerged, she found him in the kitchen, also changed into dry clothes, doing something complicated with vegetables. What are you making? Kimchi jjigae, kimchi stew, my Halmoni's recipe. I thought you might be hungry after our eventful afternoon. Catherine perched on a bar stool, watching him work. There was something mesmerizing about the way he moved around the kitchen, confident, practiced, completely different from his earlier nervousness. You really know what you're doing. Cooking is one of the few things I'm actually good at, Jay said, adding ingredients to a pot. My Halmoni started teaching me when I was 5. She said a man who can't feed himself, or the people he cares about, isn't much of a man. Smart woman. The smartest. He glanced at her, then back at the stove. How's your foot? Fine. You barely touched it. I still can't believe I slammed a car door on you. That's not exactly the impression I was hoping to make, Catherine laughed. What impression were you hoping to make? Competent, charming, someone you'd want to see again. Mission accomplished on all counts. Jay looked up from the stove, something vulnerable in his expression. Really? Really? Though I have to ask, do you always cook for women you've known for less than a week? I've never cooked for anyone I've known for less than a week, Jay admitted, or anyone I've known for longer than a week, for that matter. What makes me special? The question hung in the air between them. Jay turned off the burner and faced her fully. I don't know, he said honestly. But you are. Catherine felt her heart do that fluttering thing. Jay, Catherine, I need to tell you something. Her stomach clenched. Okay. I'm not exactly who you think I am. What do you mean? Jay took a deep breath. My family's business is not entirely legitimate. Catherine's blood pressure spiked. What does that mean? We import things that don't always go through proper channels, and we provide services that exist in legal grey areas. Grey areas? Very grey areas. Catherine stared at him, her mind racing. Are you telling me you're a criminal? I'm telling you my family has been involved in activities that the federal government would consider criminal. Yes. Oh my God. Catherine stood up abruptly, backing away from him. Oh my God, I'm dating a criminal. Catherine, please. The federal agents at my school. They were asking about people with international connections. They're investigating you, aren't they? Jay's expression shifted, becoming guarded. What federal agents? The ones who came to Jefferson Elementary asking questions about staff with international legal backgrounds. You work at an elementary school. Catherine froze. What? You said Jefferson Elementary. You work at an elementary school. They stared at each other across the kitchen, both realizing they'd just revealed more than they'd intended. You're not a lawyer, Jay said slowly. You're not just an importer, Catherine replied. You're a teacher. You're a criminal. I prefer entrepreneur with flexible ethics. Despite everything, Catherine almost smiled. Almost. This is insane, she said, running her hands through her still damp hair. I've been lying to you about being a lawyer, and you've been lying to me about being a law-abiding citizen. When you put it like that, it sounds bad. It is bad, Jay. I'm an elementary school teacher. I have a security clearance. I teach children about honesty and integrity. And I'm trying to get out of the family business, Jay said defensively. I've been working on going legitimate for months. Trying to get out, what does that even mean? Jay was quiet for a moment, then sighed heavily. It means I inherited something I never wanted, and I'm trying to figure out how to walk away without getting myself or my family killed. The words hung in the air between them. Catherine felt her anger deflate slightly, replaced by something that might have been concern. Killed? It's complicated. I'm starting to gather that. They stood there in his kitchen, the smell of kimchi stew filling the silence, both trying to process what they'd just learned. So, Catherine said finally, you're a criminal who wants to go straight, and I'm a teacher who's been pretending to be a lawyer. That's an accurate summary. And we're both terrible at lying. Spectacularly terrible. Catherine looked at him, really looked at him. He was still the man who'd made her laugh until her sides hurt, who'd been gentle with her foot, who'd kissed her like she was precious. But he was also someone whose life was apparently dangerous enough that leaving it might get him killed. Catherine, Jay said softly, I understand if you want to leave, if you never want to see me again. I should have told you the truth from the beginning. Should I want to leave? Probably. Are you dangerous? Jay considered the question seriously. Not to you. Never to you. But to other people? Yes. Sometimes. Catherine felt something cold settle in her stomach. What kind of sometimes? The kind where people try to hurt my family or my people, and I make sure they can't. Have you ever killed anyone? No. The answer was immediate and firm. I've hurt people, but I've never killed anyone. Catherine nodded slowly, processing this information. And you want out of this life? More than anything, especially now. Because of me. Because of you. The simple honesty in his voice made her heart clench. She looked around his kitchen, at the family photos, at the pot of stew he'd been making for her, at the man who'd been nothing but kind and gentle with her, despite apparently being capable of violence. "This is crazy," she said finally. "Completely insane. I should run screaming. You absolutely should. But I don't want to." Jay's eyes widened. "You don't?" "I don't know why, but I don't." Catherine moved closer to him. "Maybe it's because you've been honest with me now, when you didn't have to be. Maybe it's because I can see how much you hate what you do. Or maybe it's because I'm falling for you despite my better judgment." "Catherine, I'm not saying I'm okay with the criminal thing. I'm not saying I understand any of this, but I'm saying I don't want to walk away without trying to understand." Jay reached for her hands, holding them gently. "You could get hurt. Just being around me puts you at risk." "From who?" "Rival organizations, federal agents, my own people if they think you're a threat." "Are federal agents really investigating you?" "Probably. We've been careful. But there's always been a risk." Catherine thought about the agents at her school, about Detective Torres she'd noticed following them, about the background check she was sure Jay had probably run on her. "Jay, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest." "Okay. Did you have me investigated?" Jay's silence was answer enough. "You did." "I had to. When you mentioned federal agents at your school, I thought you might be undercover." "So you've known I was a teacher this whole time?" "Since yesterday." Catherine pulled her hands away. "And you didn't say anything?" "I was trying to figure out how to bring it up without sounding like a paranoid criminal." "By lying to me more?" "By protecting you. If you were undercover, knowing that I knew could have put you in danger. If you weren't, then telling you the truth about my business could have put you in danger. There was no good option." Catherine sank back onto the bar stool, overwhelmed. "This is so messed up." "I know. We've been lying to each other from day one." "I know. And now you're telling me that dating you could get me killed." "It's a possibility." Catherine looked at him, this man who'd somehow become important to her in less than a week, who was standing in his kitchen looking like he expected her to run. "Turn off the stew," she said finally. "What?" "The stew. Turn it off before it burns." Jay moved to the stove, confused. "Catherine, we're going to sit down, and you're going to tell me everything. The whole truth. What your family business actually is, how you got involved, what getting out would mean, all of it. Why? Because despite the fact that this is the most insane situation I've ever been in, I care about you, and I think you care about me. And maybe, just maybe, we can figure out how to make this work. And if we can't..." Catherine was quiet for a moment, thinking about her safe, predictable life, her students who depended on her, her family, who would be horrified by this situation. "Then at least we'll know we tried." Jay turned off the stove and moved to sit across from her. "Where do I start?" "The beginning." So he told her. About inheriting the organization when his father died unexpectedly. About the legitimate businesses that served as fronts for money laundering and smuggling operations. About the protection rackets and illegal gambling that funded their operations. About the violence that was sometimes necessary to maintain their territory and reputation. Catherine listened without interrupting, her expression unreadable. When he finished, they sat in silence for a long moment. "So you're basically the Korean Mafia," she said finally. "That's not inaccurate. And you want out." "I've been slowly transitioning our legitimate businesses to actually be legitimate, cutting ties with the illegal operations. It's complicated because other organizations see it as weakness, and my own people see it as betrayal." "How long would it take?" "If everything goes perfectly. Maybe 2 years if it doesn't." "You could end up dead, or in prison, or both." Catherine rubbed her temples, feeling a headache coming on. "And what about us? What happens if I decide I want to try this?" "You'd have to be careful, very careful, and you'd have to be prepared for the possibility that it might not work out. Because you might get killed. Because I might get killed, or arrested, or because you might decide that caring about a criminal isn't worth the risk. Catherine looked at him, this man who'd been nothing but gentle with her, who'd cooked for her, who'd panicked over bumping her foot with a car door. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "When you're with me, do you feel like yourself, like who you really are, not who you have to be for your business?" Jay's expression softened. "Yes, more than I have in years." "Then we're going to figure this out." "Catherine, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying I'm not terrified, but I'm saying that what we have is worth fighting for." Jay reached across the counter and took her hands again. "You're sure?" "I'm sure I want to try. Are you?" "More than anything." They sat there, holding hands across his kitchen counter, both knowing they were about to embark on something that could end in disaster, both too far gone to care. "So what now?" Catherine asked. "Now we take it one day at a time, and we don't lie to each other anymore." "No more lies, no more lies." Catherine squeezed his hands. "In that case, I should probably tell you that I've been in love with you since our second date." Jay's face broke into the first genuine smile she'd seen from him all day. "In that case, I should probably tell you that I've been in love with you since you laughed at my terrible joke about the horse in French. It really was a terrible joke, the worst." They were both laughing now, the tension finally breaking. Whatever happened next, whatever challenges they'd face them together. "Are you hungry?" Jay asked. The stew should still be good. Starving. As Jay ladled the kimchi stew into bowls, Catherine watched him, marveling at how normal this felt despite everything they'd just revealed. Maybe love really was about accepting someone completely, flaws and criminal enterprises included. "Jay?" "Yeah?" "For the record, you're a terrible criminal. You're way too nice. For the record, you're a terrible liar. You're way too honest. We're quite a pair." The worst. They ate their stew and talked about everything. Their childhoods, their dreams, their fears about the future. And for a few hours, in the safety of his kitchen, they were just two people who'd found each other against all odds. Outside, Detective Torres sat in his car, photographing the building and making notes about the extended visit. Soon, he'd have enough evidence to move forward with the investigation. But inside, Catherine and Jay were falling deeper in love, blissfully unaware that their biggest challenges were still ahead of them. Months later, Catherine stood in the kitchen of Jay's penthouse, their penthouse now, watching him teach her 7-year-old student Lily how to make kimchi. It was a Saturday morning, and Lily's mother had dropped her off for what had become a weekly cooking lesson. "No, like this," Jay was saying patiently, showing Lily how to fold the cabbage properly. "I want to make sure every piece is coated." "This is so cool," Lily exclaimed, her small hands covered in kimchi paste. "Miss Catherine, you're so lucky your boyfriend knows how to make everything." "Husband," Catherine corrected automatically, then blushed when both Lily and Jay looked at her. "Not yet," Jay said, grinning, "but soon." The past 6 months had been a whirlwind. Jay had accelerated his exit from the family business, with Woo Jin's help and Soonja's surprisingly enthusiastic support. It turned out Halmoni had been hoping for years that her grandson would find something better to do with his life. "A teacher!" she'd exclaimed when Jay finally brought Catherine to meet her. "Smart, beautiful, and she'll keep you honest. I approve." The transition hadn't been easy. There had been threats from rival organizations, tense negotiations with his own people, and several very uncomfortable conversations with Detective Torres, who'd eventually become an unlikely ally when Jay started providing information about other criminal enterprises. Catherine had been remarkably adaptable, though she'd insisted on some ground rules. No business discussions at home, no weapons in the house, and absolutely no criminal activity that could put her students or school at risk. "I can live with dating a reformed criminal," she'd said. "I cannot live with dating an active one." So Jay had reformed, faster than anyone thought possible, with a determination that surprised even him. The legitimate businesses were thriving. The illegal operations had been shut down or transferred, and he'd discovered he was actually quite good at being a normal businessman. "Miss Catherine," Lily said, interrupting her thoughts, "are you going to marry Mr. Jay?" Catherine looked at Jay, who was watching her with that soft expression that still made her heart flutter. "I think I might," she said. "Good," Lily declared. "You guys are weird, but you're happy weird." "Out of the mouths of babes," Jay murmured, moving to wrap his arms around Catherine from behind. "We are pretty weird," Catherine agreed, leaning back against him. "The weirdest," he confirmed, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. Later, after Lily had gone home with a container of kimchi and strict instructions to share with her mother, Catherine and Jay sat on their balcony watching the sunset over Santa Barbara Harbor. "Any regrets?" Jay asked, playing with her fingers. "About what?" "Dating a criminal, lying about being a lawyer, getting involved in the most complicated relationship in history." Catherine considered this seriously. "Well, I do regret lying about being a lawyer. That was stupid and unnecessary. And the rest?" "The rest led me to you, so no regrets." Jay lifted their joined hands and kissed her knuckles. "I love you, Catherine Davis." "I love you too, Jay Choi. Reformed criminal, excellent cook, and the worst liar I've ever met. We should probably work on our honesty skills before we have kids." "Kids?" Catherine raised an eyebrow. "Eventually?" "Maybe. If you want them. I do want them. But first I want that proposal you keep hinting about." "Soon," Jay promised. "How soon?" "Very soon." "Like next week soon? Or next year soon?" Jay grinned and pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. "Like right now soon." Catherine's eyes widened. "Jay!" "Catherine Davis," he said, sliding off the couch to kneel in front of her. "You are the most honest, kind, beautiful woman I've ever met. You've made me want to be better than I ever thought I could be. Will you marry me?" The ring was perfect, simple, elegant, exactly what she would have chosen. But more than that, the man offering it was perfect for her, criminal past and all. "Yes," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, absolutely yes." As Jay slipped the ring onto her finger, Catherine thought about how strange life was. A year ago, she'd been a single teacher with a quiet, predictable life. Now she was engaged to a reformed Korean mobster who made her laugh every day and loved her exactly as she was. "So," she said, as Jay settled back beside her, "what do we tell people about how we met?" "The truth. That we met on a dating app while both lying about our identities? Maybe we leave out the criminal part for your parents. Definitely leaving out the criminal part for my parents." They sat there, watching the sun set over the Pacific, planning their future and laughing about their ridiculous past. Somewhere in the city, Detective Torres was closing the file on the Choi organization, satisfied that Jay had kept his word about going legitimate. Brianna was planning an engagement party that would probably be more elaborate than most people's weddings. Soon Ja was already planning the menu for the wedding reception, and Catherine and Jay were just happy to have found each other, lies and all. "One more thing," Catherine said as they headed inside. "What?" "Next time you want to ask me out, just be yourself from the beginning. You're much more interesting than any fake persona you could create." "Deal. And next time you want to impress someone, just be the amazing teacher you are. It's the sexiest thing about you." "Deal." They sealed their agreement with a kiss, and somewhere in the distance, a car drove through a puddle, splashing water on an unsuspecting couple who would probably have their own ridiculous love story to tell someday. Because in Santa Barbara, apparently, love was always a little bit messy, a little bit complicated, and absolutely worth the chaos.